We recently made this GTR go from this to this. But today, we put new parts on it, but somehow we're about to go for our drive and disaster struck. So be sure to stick around to see the story unfold. Now when I got my tune, I had to take this off because it was in the way. We had to get the spark plugs, right? So today we're gonna put this back on. We're gonna put a couple other things back on that we took off for the tune. And also we got a wheel alignment recently. And I think my steering wheel, I put it on crooked because it's not the factory one, it's a Series 2. And it might be a spline out. So we're gonna check that and then we're gonna make sure everything's good. Luckily putting on these strut braces is very easy. All you need is a 14mm and a tool to do so. Just go ahead, whip these top strut bolts off, slap the strut bar in place. Then we'll do the nuts up most of the way with the rattle gun. Personally, I like to jump onto a manual tool afterwards to make sure it's not too tight or too loose. So that's why I'm going to use the ratchet now, just to make sure it's torqued how I want it. And as simple as that, we have it on, it's good to go. And all of a sudden the car can go around the corner much faster, much better. Next on the to-do list was tidy up the ECU. Now, as you can see, this one's got two brackets and they're screwed on, and this ECU is the same shape, but it doesn't have holes for the screws. Now, you probably can't blame me, but I don't want to go drilling holes in an ECU, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to shove it on in there, put that kick panel over it, and it should be fine. And so that's exactly what we did. We got the Apex U in there, we got the kick panel over it, covering it up, and now the footwell just looks heaps tidier. Now, would you just look at that? That is much tidier. No more ECU hanging out, no more risk of kicking it, no more spaghetti mess. Now, some of you may be wondering what that is. You also might not be. Some of you GTR nerds may know that these came with a flare gun from factory back in the day. And most of the time when they're exported from Japan, they're removed for safety reasons. And somehow this one wasn't taken out. So here we got the factory flare gun. Super rare, super cool. You may be wondering if this thing deserved an intro like this, and the simple answer is absolutely. These are so rare, it's unbelievable. It's super cool to find, and this one's actually in date, I think. I don't know. Nonetheless, super rare, super insane. It's just an example of how genuine and low K's this car was when I got it. Now, someone told me that that is indeed the flare holder, but to me, that doesn't look like it fit, which really sucks. Maybe, I'm assuming maybe there's meant to be another case around it or something, I don't know. Yeah, it turns out there's two different sizes, so that means this isn't the one that came in this car from factory. Oh well, on to the next thing. There is a common problem amongst RBs, and that is the dreaded belt squeal. Now, unfortunately, I've fallen victim to this one. I've checked the belt tension, two of them were a bit loose, I've tightened them up. Did it help? No. So I think it's down to the tensioners, like the actual pulleys or something. They need to be replaced. But anyways, while I was doing that and I took off my airbox the other day, I noticed that the gasket rings on the airflow meters were missing, and they weren't before. I've taken them off before, they were there. This time they weren't there. That's no good, is it? So I went and ordered some and they showed up. So I've got those here. We'll put these on. Should help it run better because there'll be more, because the airflow meters will be metering the airflow like they should be. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, see that groove? There's no rubber ring, which means no seal, which means air is seeking through, which isn't a big deal anyway because it's before the sensor, so it still goes through. But yeah, it's better to not have it like that. Now this is the part where the dramas start happening. All I did was put that ring on, and then I find out we've got a problem. No idea why it won't start. Today was meant to be a simple day, an easy day of a bit of maintenance. Where has that gotten us? That's gotten us to a point where we have a car that won't start. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This ain't a DIY channel. I mean, I guess there's one bright side, longer video, more content. I genuinely don't know what it could be, because all I've done is taken the airflow meters off and put that ring on, which will not make it not start. I've triple checked the plugs. They are definitely on and on the correct order. The only other thing I can think of is the other day I washed it, and then I put it in the garage, and then the next day where we were at, now it won't start. And I was squirting the shit out of the grill, trying to get all the soap out, and that airbox goes about there. So I'm thinking, did water go in there? But the air filter's dry, everything in there's dry, so I don't think it'll be that that, but that's genuinely the only thing I can think of. So remember that strut brace we just put on? Yeah, we're gonna take it off and take the plugs out and make sure everything's dry.
Okay, so we've removed the strut brace, we've removed the coil cover, and we're taking the coil packs out. We're going to look down in the hole to make sure there's no water disrupting the electrical flow to the spark plugs, and look for any other abnormalities, if that's how you say it. It's always safe to check, but I don't think any water would have made its way down there.
Because if water got on there from me squirting the grill, that would have been pretty fucking impressive. So next, we'll take spark plugs out, make sure we're going to be checking that they're wet, and if they are, it's got to be fuel, and if they've got no fuel, well then we've got a fueling problem. But we can hear the fuel pump priming, and I don't think all 6 injectors are just going to stop unless it's an electrical fault. So with that being said, we'll take these spark plugs out, make sure they're wet in the correct way. I won't lie, I'm not totally sure what I'm doing, but around this washer, it does look a little bit damp. On the tip, it looks pretty dry, which from my experience is normal, but I've heard that it's meant to be wet after cranking it. I don't know for sure. If you do know, please, if you've got any ideas what this could be, drop it in the comments, come on. I do need some help, because I don't actually know what I'm trying to look for. Well, I do, don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to diagnose it. And as you guys know, that's the hard part of working on cars. So any help is appreciated. Now, this plug is looking pretty black. It's not that old, but I mean, overall it doesn't look too bad. So we'll clean it up, put it back in, take the next one out.
After removing all the spark plugs and inspecting them and confirming they were all in fact dry, it was time to put it back together and start taking apart the air intake side once again. As I have mentioned, I have checked and checked and checked that the AFMs are plugged in properly, but this is my only option at the moment. I need to check again. So I'm going to pull it all apart and go from there.
The only thing I can think of now that would sort of make sense is that when I put that gasket on and I was taking the AFMs out, maybe I accidentally pulled one of the plugs too much and split a wire somewhere I can't see it. That's about the only thing I can think of, unless something like a fuse is blown or something like that has just randomly happened at the same time I pulled the car apart, which can happen, but generally if you do something and it stops working, it's probably something you did. So we'll get on to pulling this airflow area out. One airflow meter off. It looks fine, but to be fair, you can't really see in there, can you? There is our other half of the airbox. That is the bottom airflow meter. And I mean, it looks fine. It's hard to tell. You can't just really look at it and know if the sensor's good. But I mean, the car was running. Why would they both just break at once, you know? Now, the other things I can check is just to make sure these plugs look all right. And I have checked, and they do look fine. And also, maybe that pipe, I could have damaged it when I was taking things on and off. But I mean, it's unlikely, but it's also the only thing I can think of. So I guess I'll just inspect everything, make sure there's no holes, no broken plugs or whatever, put it all back together. And will it work? Probably not. I'm sure most of you probably already know, but for those who don't, this here is a multimeter. And what we do with this is we're gonna check power at these plugs and make sure they're getting power. You just put one of the prongs in to the correct spot, ground the other one, and it should read some numbers. And if it doesn't, there's no power going to the plug, and that is a problem.
And as we can see here, both the top one and the bottom one are both reading 12 volts. This proves that power is making it to the plug, so there is no issue there. That concludes that these plugs are in good, healthy condition. So with that, we'll put this all back together once again. Let's see if the car magically fixed itself. Uh-oh, nope, it hasn't. Back to the drawing board.
Okay guys, I think that's going to be enough for today. It's still not going. I guess in the next episode, we'll start looking into spark, seeing if we can get some spark, checking if there's fuel coming through, making sure there's not like a dead fuel pump or things like that. Really start properly diving in, but I won't lie, it's pretty disheartening. I just gave it a wash, and I just wanted to go drive it. But hey, I mean, look at the bright side, right? More content for you guys. You're taking the absolute piss. I just want to say, my fuel gauge said I had quarter of a tank. And I was like, it's probably not that, but I'll go get some fuel anyway. I got 10 litres in a jerry can. I just put it in. Bruh. You're taking the piss, the actual piss. It just had no fuel. Well, at least I know my cluster's quarter of a tank out. I don't even know what to say. Thanks for watching. Number one mechanic right here. Bye.
Hold on, I need to clear some things up. It's been a few days now, and here's my takeaway. I think when I washed it, a sensor got wet, preventing it from sending fuel to the engine, and then somehow, when I filled it up with 10 litres, it just made it work. The reason I know the fuel tank wasn't empty is because I went and filled it up after, and these have a 65 litre fuel tank, and with filling it up after, it only came to 40 litres. So that means when it said I had quarter of a tank, it did indeed have quarter of a tank. So my cluster's not out. Something must have just been periodically not working, but everything seems to be okay now. Okay, thank you, bye bye.